Hey guys, welcome back to Biblio Fitness. Hope everyone's had a great weekend. Thanksgiving is coming up, which means a short work week, and obviously, time with the family and stuff like that. Like I didn't really go out last year. I think I just stayed home and hanged out with my cat. So this year I have to go out. I really don't want to, but it is what it is. So today I did want to say that I started History of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides. I read this book before, but I did get the Penguin Classics translation. Is it Penguin? Yeah, the Penguin Classics, which is the publishing company. I've been getting more Penguin Classics because of the translation. I do have another copy of the History of Peloponnesian War, but I'm interested in because the Penguin Classics version has more pages than the one that I had previously, so I'm not sure what that means. But we'll see. It's a great book. It's obviously the OG history book, I guess. I forgot who's the guy that wrote the Persian Wars. I'm not sure. I forgot his name. But yeah, Thucydides is always considered a standard. A lot of historian authors and stuff like that really hold him as the standard, or sort of like the guiding principle, the ideal of what you should, of how your book should be written, how it should be planned out, and for good reason. It could be that as it may, it could be rather dull sometimes. He throws out a lot of names at you and a lot of cities and stuff that just doesn't. I'm not gonna remember all this shit. There's just so many Greek names and so many Greek cities, and he talks about the archonships, and he talks about the oracles and stuff like that. Like obviously he placed it in the book because it was important at that time, and it's important to some people, but to me it doesn't really matter. Because the whole thing of why they start the year of the archonship with this and this person is basically the same principle that the Romans used. Like they didn't have a year, like a number, how we say 2022. They said, oh, this was the year of the consulship of this and this person. But it's a great book. I want to read it because I also purchased A Story of My Times by Xenophon, which is another highly regarded book that I have not read. Recently, I'm just really trying to get the classics out of the way. Not out of the way, like not like I don't want to make it seem like I want to get rid of them or I don't want to read them. We got out of the way as in like I'm finally giving these books a chance. Given the old classics. I did also purchase the 12 Caesars by Suetonius and then the Annals of Imperial Rome by Tacitus because I do love Roman history. But yes, it is a great book. I'm already like a quarter of the way in, and I just started a couple of days ago. It's a great book. Like yeah, the boring names and shit, but now this is a very crucial war. There's a very crucial conflict. It has a lot of backstory with the Persian Wars, and it's like the more I read, the more I realize why it is a standard. The way he lays out everything, the way the speeches. I feel like it adds such a great component and like another layer to the storytelling. You have the speech between, like the first speech, which was the Corcyraeans and Corinthians making their case to the Athenians on which side they should choose or whether they should stay neutral. You have Pericles, the first citizen of Athens, which Thucydides highly revered and stuff like that, even though Thucydides wasn't really a Democrat. Most people weren't Democrats. A lot of these old champions of democracy were low-key hated democracy. They only said that shit because that was the way the government worked and that was the way they were going to get votes. It's like nowadays. Do you really think that the people at the head of our governments really care about democracy? No, they don't. I'm not a big fan of democracy either, to be quite honest with you. That's a story for another time. But yeah, it adds another layer to the story. The speeches. He does give really in depth, like he gives like a great like backdrop, or like a prequel, like not a prequel, but like he contextualizes how that conflict arose, or what were the situations that transpired before that actual conflict, what were the prerequisites for that sort of conflict to ensue, right? It talks about the Persian Wars, and it talks about Marathon, and it talks about after defeating I'm sorry. After defeating the Persians, in the great battle of Salamis, and then you have Plataea, which is the final battle on land, and the rising tensions that started appearing after that. You have the famous Pausanias. Yeah, Pausanias. Uh, he was like the regent for Sparta, and then the fucking morons started corresponding with Artaxerxes and started dressing like a Persian and started doing other dumb shit, blatantly saying that, oh yeah, I'm under Persian payroll because I'm trying to take over Greece. It wasn't called Greece at the time; it was called Hellas. And it's really cool. Like, even talks about Helen, like where the fuck the word Helen, Hellas, or whatever comes from. I mean, there's some guy and his sons, and then he even talks about Troy, and he tries to really map it out with how was Agamemnon able to acquire all these like people to go to war with him. It had to be more than just some stupid truce that they made together. No, it was because of his conquest, and he probably had a great navy, he probably had the best navy, because he was really trying. I really do like how he elaborates the importance of naval strength in Greece, because you are in the Mediterranean. It's a giant trade hub. And it just shows you, like, at the very beginning, how they were constantly moving. It was a very nomadic type of thing, because Greece is not known for great pastures, and it was constant fighting. You had Thebes, you had Thessaly, you had the Peloponnese, and you had and how a lot, and how Attica, or Athens as more people call it, but how it was like very unique in its circumstance, because it wasn't under great political turmoil and political and war and conflict and constant interchanging hands of the same plot of land, because it wasn't fertile, so they weren't really attracting a lot of attention. And stability is a prerequisite, is a necessity in order for your civilization to continue to flourish. It can't be under constant strain of battle and war, because then you're never going to have the respite necessary in order to conduct those sort of activities, because you're just constantly vying for your survival. And if you're constantly vying for survival, you don't have the energy and time in order to innovate. And that's what they did. He talks about Corinth, a great place, very strategically placed as a transportation hub, both on sea and on land. Unfortunately, the fucking Romans decided to burn it to the ground. I like Rome because it's fascinating, not Rome because of what they do. The more I read, the more it's very complicated. Same thing with Greece. And like I said, it's just very elaborate how he talks about that. And he talks about how this conflict, the Peloponnesian War, was going to be the greatest conflict to that date. How the other conflicts didn't really match in comparison in the numbers involved, the countries, the city-states involved, like the sheer magnitude of this conflict was going to outreach all the others. And it did. It involved basically all the countries. I mean, I keep saying countries. I'm so sorry. All the city-states, all the city-states in Greece. It caught in this tug of war between Sparta and Athens, and how it really wasn't about right or wrong with Sparta. It was basically they were becoming afraid of Athenian domination, and that's one of the things. Like, it's so cool how he like elaborates on these sort of conflicts, and he elaborates on the growing tensions. And like I said, like after the Persian War and Pausanias started draining Persian, I just realized that I just did a complete aside. I'm sorry. How they ousted him, and they really just held back, because one of the greatest weaknesses of Sparta And it's because they have a the helots, the slave population, which vastly outnumber them. And they always had to constantly be afraid of a helot revolt. So it really forced them to be very conservative and very conservative on what conflicts they're going to engage in and for how long. Because you need your people to come back and make sure your slaves are not going crazy. Which is not a great method of government, and that's why they never advanced, and that's why they became obsolete, because they weren't able to advance, and then the devastation in the citizen population does not help anything. But that's out of the context of this video. So yeah, so after the Persian War, Spartans left. They gave control to the Athenians because other countries weren't really fucking with Spartans, because Spartans are the only ones that listen to Spartan laws and rules, and they're very, you know, very austere. I mean, not austere, but very rigid. You know, they're very, I mean, they're famous. I think everybody knows that they're very disciplined and they live a Spartan lifestyle and everything's simplistic. They didn't have these grand temples. It was a very village-like city, very rural, very agricultural. They didn't have any walls because they felt like, oh, we don't need walls because the bravery and skill of our soldiers is the only defense we need. Until Thebes came along later on and whooped their ass into obscurity. But and you know, Athens started taking over, and then he talks about how this was the moment when the Athenian Empire really began to take shape and began to flourish, because they were given the lead. You know what I'm saying? They were given they were given the lead in the campaign against the Persians to free the Ionian Greeks. And the Ionian Greeks, city-states, are the Greek city-states that are located in Asia Minor. And that's what they went ahead and did. And it talks about the expedition, the failed expedition to Egypt, and how they really started making the Delian League, and how they started gaining money and financial contributions, ships, soldiers from other city-states. And that's how they were buying them and keep them there, because you had Naxos, which was the first city-state that tried to leave the league. They didn't want to be in the league anymore. And Athens went in there and fucked their shit up and took hostages and was like, no, you can't leave. And I really do like how Thucydides talks about how, like, during this conflict, the other Greek city-states really fucked themselves. Because while the Athenians, they were first giving money to the Athenians to build their own navy. So you're giving money to another competitor, basically, to subjugate you. They're gaining experience in war. They're gaining experience in seamanship. While because a lot of these cities did not want to get ships. They did not want to send soldiers. So like, oh yeah, we'll just pay you money. But then you remain stagnant and you become complacent, and you are no longer accustomed to the uncomfortable. You're no longer accustomed to the uncomfortable situation that can arise with war, the hardening of war. And that was a great benefit to the Athenians. And that's why when the conflict comes around, they're ready to go, and they got a whole lot of money, they got a whole lot of ships, and they got a whole lot of motivated people to help them out. The fact that they were able to survive so long against so many other competitors is crazy. Like, I'm not saying that Athens had no fucking allies, but they put a lot of the legwork. And it's just it's really fucking cool. And I can't wait to read it again. I do remember quite a bit. But I just wanted to read it because, like I said, it's very elaborate, and he goes into the nitty-gritty details about this sort of shit, which is what I like. I just can't remember Greek names. I have a weakness for Greek names. It just goes through one ear and out the other, and I forget. And then I get confused. And a lot of times I've had to Google, and I'm like, what? Who the fuck is this? But you know, he's the standard for a reason. And like I said, the speeches are crazy, bro. Like the Pericles one. And then you have Corinth when they go back to Sparta, because the whole conflict started with Epidamus, which is a city that asked Corcyra, which are with their patrons to this day, for help, and they said no, because, you know, they had the oligarchs that got kicked out of of Epidamus went to them already to get help with other mercenaries to take over the city, so they're not going to say no. So when Caesar said no, they're like, all right, let's go to Corinth. Let's get their help. And Corinth was like, yeah, we'll help you out. And then suddenly Corcyra wants to help. And then they start battling, and it just snowballs to the event that is called the Peloponnesian War. And it's really cool because when the Corinthians went over there to plead their case to the Spartans after Athens picked Corcyra over Corinth, you know, and like I said, brother, pleading the case is like Corcyra, for example, was saying like, yeah, we've been neutral, but it was our mistake. We really want you to help us out because we're isolated here. But imagine we're on your team. We have the second best navy after you. Do you really want us to go to the Peloponnesians? You know damn well these guys are prepping for war against you. They don't like you. So it behooves you to have us on your side than have us come over to them, and then you're fucked because now you have a navy with Corinth and Corcyra against you. Instead of having 2 out of 3, you're only 1 of the 3. Or the 3 top navies of the city-states. And it's a compelling argument from a military perspective because you know war is coming, so having powerful allies doesn't hurt. And then Corinth comes in, and they're like, you don't know if there's a war coming. We helped you when Naxos and when Aegina revolted, and we told the Peloponnesians to not butt in because it's not their problem. They should have a right to do whatever they want with their allies. And now that the roles are reversed, we're kind of expecting you to back us up here. The roles have been reversed. We expect your support because we supported you. And do you really want to go to war with us? You know what I'm saying? Do you really want to go to war with us for Corcyra, like for picking an alliance? Just stay neutral. Why are you going to go to war? Because if you intervene, then we're going to have to intervene. And then we intervene, we have to call our friends. You know what I'm saying? And you call your friends, and we call our friends, and then we're all just having a grand old time killing each other, which is what happens, obviously. But Athens pits Corcyra for the military advantage. And then afterwards, Corinth goes to Sparta pissed off, along with other people. They're all pissed off at Athens. And they go to like to the council or whatever of the Spartans. They're not called Spartans there. They're called Lacedaemonians. That's like a daemon. I'm pretty sure it's a K because C was not an actual alphabetical letter, like an actual letter in the ancient Greek alphabet. They used the K instead of a C. So I'm saying Lacedaemonia. But at the same time, I'm probably still mispronouncing the goddamn word. And they're pleading the case to now the Spartans. They're like, dude, we gotta hurry the fuck up. They're telling the Spartans, like, you guys are too slow. Which is one of the problems. Very deliberate. But like, dude, you guys are too slow. You guys don't want to move. You guys have been knowing that Athens is encroaching. You guys been knowing that Athens is subjugating people to their rule. And they're trying to make more and more territorial gains. And you're just still here sitting on your ass. Like, they're like, then they use the Persian War example. They're like, dude, you guys didn't even mobilize until the fucking Persians were basically knocking on your door. You didn't do shit. And then as soon as they left, you came right back. But the Athenians are constantly innovating. They're constantly moving. They're constantly trying to do more and more and trying to acquire more wealth. And they're trying to... But you're still here. You're still stuck. You're stagnant. Like, you guys are complete polar opposites. And they're like, you guys, and they're telling, like, you guys are the leaders. Like, you guys have to lead by example. Like, why are we still arguing whether we've been offended instead of talking about how we're going to act? How are we going to fight back? And instead of saying why, are we really? No. When? Where? How? What are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to come together and get this shit done? Well, basically, guilt tripping them. The speeches are so cool. They're so cool. They really, like I said, they add such a fucking amazing layer to the story. Because at that same meeting, the Athenians come in. And they were there on some other business or whatever. And then they present themselves. And they're like, oh yeah, we came here on an official business, but we've been hearing we're hearing a lot of complaints. And I find it, I fucking like it because a lot of the justification is realpolitik. It's not this whole right and wrong bullshit. Like, I really do feel a lot of that stuff is just banners, like a wool covering the eyes of the peasantry, because that shit really doesn't matter. Once you start talking power politics and power and making power plays, that shit doesn't mean anything because it's subjective, and if it's subjective, it's not real, right? I guess, in a way. So they're pleading their case as well. I mean, not pleading the case. They're basically telling them, like, dude, we have a right to empire. We put our backs into this shit. We took over leadership when you guys left. In the Persian War, we're the ones that got our houses burned down. We're the ones that had to get on boats and leave our homes. We're the ones that put in the most ships. We are the ones that showed the courage. You had a home to go back to. We didn't. And we still stayed. We could have gone somewhere else. And we didn't. And they're like, dude, we took over leadership. We have a right to empire. And then and it was a really cool segment. They're like, dude, oh, we find it really funny that, like, you treat people with respect and you make them feel like they're an active participant, like you're your equal. They get offended for any slightest thing. Like, you do anything, you make any small changes, oh, they're offended. Oh, now you did them wrong. Like, dude, I do what I want because I have power over you. And they're like, they were saying, like, the Athenian envoys were saying, people get more offended when they feel like they're your equal, than if you completely conquer them from the very get-go. They wouldn't be making so many complaints. And like, and they're saying, like, this is ours. And they were also telling, like, do you really want to go to war with us? They were using the Persian War as an example of their tenacity and their perseverance and the determination to see a conflict through. And they're like, do you really want to go to war with us? Do you not see our navy? Do you not see how big our empire is? Are you sure you want to start a conflict for no fucking good reason, just because these idiots are constantly complaining? It was pretty great. So, I can't wait to read the rest of it. Like I said, it could drag out a little bit sometimes, but it is still a must read, and I can't wait to get through it. It is quite enticing. I can't wait to get through the Thucydides campaign when he starts really going crazy in Thrace and starts really liberating a lot of stuff. But it's like a lot of history books don't even do the level of Thucydides. They don't go on this level. Like it's kind of really like reading him, and then I read history books after, and I'm like, dude, like, it pales in comparison. And to consider that this guy lived thousands of years ago, and he didn't even see the end of the conflict. The guy died before the conflict was done, and that's why I want to read a story of my times, because it's basically a continuation, and it's past the Peloponnesian War, because Xenophon is the famous captain that he went to Asia to help out, and then they literally had to fight their way back to Greece and then go over again. Even though Xenophon's has a hard on for what was the name of that fucking Lacedaemonian king at the time? But I forgot his name. Like I said, Greek names, I suck with Greek names. They go through one ear and out the other. It's really difficult for me to remember stuff. Well, with their names. And then the Pericles speeches are fucking lit. You know what I mean? Pericles is the first citizen of Athens, and he's probably the most famous Athenian in history. And you know how they really follow his guidance, and if they would have followed it, they probably wouldn't have fucked themselves over and be idiots and go on that ridiculous Sicilian campaign when you're not even done with the war and you're out here trying to do other shit, trying to conquer other spaces. What are you doing? You're not even done yet. But we'll get to that a little bit later on once I start refreshing more on that ridiculous Sicilian campaign and Demosthenes and Nicias just botching the whole goddamn thing. No, I think it was Nicias that he botched it. Yeah, because then you have famous Alcibiades, fucking traitor. They were trying to get him back to Athens. He's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And he goes to Sparta and starts spilling all the fucking goddamn secrets. Starts telling them, oh yeah, this is how you want to fuck them over. You got to take this, and you got to do this, you got to do this. This is going to really fuck their economy. I'm like, god damn, you a fucking traitor, bro. I can't wait. It's great. I do love those speeches, bro. I do love them. They're really cool. They really go with the flow. You know, obviously a lot of those speeches are not going to be word for word and stuff like that. He's not omnipresent, and he's not omnipotent, and doesn't possess level of powers of clairvoyance or anything like that. But he does say in the beginning, he's like, "Oh yeah, I did it from I got it from people who were there, and then just filling the missing gaps of what they probably were advocating for, objectively." And it seems to be the case for me. Like, obviously, he's going to have a certain level of bias for Athens, and it shows, and it's, you read it, that, I mean, he is a commander of the Athenian army. There is going to be a level of bias, and I mean, I guess it's a little bit understandable. You are in the middle of a fucking war. And I think I'm about to start reading the plague that breaks out in the second year of the conflict in Athens that devastates the population. And the reason for that is because when the campaign starts, they start bringing everybody in, because they know that they can't go on a one-on-one conflict with the Peloponnesians because of their just sheer numbers. You can't do that. The Athenians, the only way that they can win is through navy, holding out a war of attrition, basically gather resources from the islands and gather tribute from the others and just blast at them little by little. Because the plan of the Lacedaemonians was, oh, that we're just going to ravage lands. We're going to liberate towns. We're going to free Hellas. We're going to free all these cities. And that's how they got a lot of initial support. But as we could see later on, and especially after the conflict, they did not want to let go of what they got. And the Athenians even told them this in the fucking beginning, bro. They're like, oh yeah, you could take us down because people are always going to hate the people at the top. But when you take our place, watch how quick those feelings change. From love to hate. Because now you're at the top. Now you're the oppressor. You're going to get the same hate that we are getting. Pretty intense shit. And it's a great strategy. It's the best naval power against the great land force. It's like Britain against France during the Napoleonic Wars. Really. You had a landlocked country against the greatest navy. Well, not landlocked, I mean, it's France. But landlocked, I mean, as like the Royal Navy really fucked up with the blockades. Just like how they fucked with Germany with the blockade. I think that's a better analogy. Germany and Britain, especially in the First World War. You do have a landlocked country, or a land-dominant country, because what the fuck, what sort of navy you're going to have, especially except the U-boats. And even that, they caught it because of the Enigma machine. But I can't wait to read more, bro. It gets crazy. It gets savage. A whole lot of butchering, a whole lot of revolutions, and a whole lot of crazy shit, because war breeds opportunities, and opportunities are not always the best thing for everybody, obviously. And you know, you have Coursera that basically takes itself out of the war because they are constantly in revolution, and it's very bloody, and I'm excited because I remember a lot of this shit, like I'm talking about. That's why I feel like it's such a good thing to talk. Like, even if like I make videos, right, and I don't upload them, if I didn't upload them, I'm glad that I'm able to speak about it. Because I honestly, unfortunately, don't really have friends that can keep up with me in history, which is obviously a terrible sign for me, because that means I need to get more friends. Friends that are involved in this sort of interest, have this sort of interest as well. But I do like to make videos also just because, like, I'm talking, I'm remembering things, because you're articulating, and the word of mouth is very powerful, and you're getting your brain to move, and you're getting your brain to talk and digest everything and put it on a plate and fucking presenting it. That's why I really do like making these videos as well, because it makes me remember, and I'm remembering a lot of stuff that I really do want to read again. It's a very in-depth. He really focuses on a lot of the human condition aspects of it, the psychology of it, the tiredness of war, the political turmoil that arises from war. A lot of these cities just get ravaged by inner politics. You know, you have one group wanting to oust the other, and then the other leaves, and then they cause damage on this one, and it's just constantly switching hands. This constant political turmoil. And it's a great military book. It's the OG, and it still lives up to standards today. It's not a bad book at all. Not a bad book at all. So, goddamn, 30 minutes already. So, can't wait to talk more about this book. Hopefully, I'm talking about these books because I read all the time, and I hope I get to inspire people to read a fucking book. I feel like a lot of the problems, I think I've said this before, I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of our problems will be solved if people weren't so fucking stupid. I feel like reading is such a fucking important thing to do. It forces your brain to think, and it forces your brain to work. It's like a muscle. It's like you have to make it train. You have to put it under stress in order to make it grow. And for the brain, it's reading. And I'm not talking about those self-affirmation shit, like, you know, history books. You have to know where you've been in order to have any grasp of where you could possibly be going, right? And people don't read history, don't know shit. And I'm like, dude, stop being on fucking TikTok all day and read a book. But most people don't have that sort of attention span anymore, so they're fucked. But yeah, hopefully I can inspire someone to read. And I've already inspired a couple friends, but hopefully some more. Hopefully start a book club. A book club will be fucking lit. And then you know what you can do with those sort of military books? It's like we pick sides. Like, oh, okay, you pick this side and we pick this side, and then you make an argument to the case as to why, you know, who should be the victor, or who's in the right, or who's in the wrong, who should have done this, or who should have done that. You know, play what is it? Desktop general. That'd be pretty fucking cool. So I'm gonna leave y'all at that. I'm gonna keep going, updating with this book. I need to do some updates on training as well. But it's just the same monotonous shit all the time. I don't really change shit. It's all about progressive overload. I can't be changing shit all the time. Until obviously I plateau on an exercise movement or whatever, and have to switch it out. But hope y'all have a great day. I'm gonna try to put on another video before Thanksgiving. But if not, hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Celebrate with the family or whatever it is you do. Have a great time. There's nothing wrong with being alone. Sure, I'm low-key thinking of staying home as well. I really don't want to go out. Like, I know I sound like a fucking recluse, that I don't want to hang out with my family and shit, but I really don't. I'd rather be home and relaxing. But it is what it is. So, hope you all have a great night. And until next time, guys, peace.